They thought he was useless, so he was kicked out of the party, but his healing magic was so advanced that they didn't even know they were being healed, and everything falls apart after he leaves. The story begins in the kingdom of Herzith, where healers are highly regarded for their contributions to expanding the nation. The royal hospital is filled with healers who come to learn new techniques, and it's also where they get their license to start their journey. We meet a boy named Zenos, as he heals a man, but we learn he never received a formal education, so he doesn't have a license. As the man leaves, Zenos' assistant Lily reminds him he has to make a house call, and she tells him she'll have dinner ready for when he gets back. As he goes out, he sees a girl that's in pain, and a man named Forbes arrives, asking her where she's been. She tells him she has a stomach ache, so she went to a hospital, but they didn't see her because she doesn't have money. Forbes doesn't care, reminding her that she's just a slave, and he takes her to a graveyard. As he throws her down, a black mist appears and enters her body, but he kicks her away, telling her he'll feed her if she finds anything valuable. But as he's about to leave, she suddenly attacks him with her claws, causing him to bleed. He tries to run away from her, but he runs into Zenos and asks him for help. He explains that his slave attacked him, so he needs to get to a hospital, promising to pay Zenos if he takes care of her. She starts throwing rocks at him, but he easily dodges all of them, and Forbes is impressed. He tells Zenos to eliminate her, but he refuses because his goal is to save lives. Forbes notes that Zenos could be killed if he doesn't drop his nonsense, but he's shocked as Zenos destroys a huge rock with his bare hands. He's impressed by the girl's speed, but he uses his magic to send her flying into a house, telling her to calm down. But as he gets close to her, he realizes that she's possessed by a ghost, so he uses his magic to set her free. Forbes is impressed by his powers and tells Zenos to heal him, but he explains that he's off duty. Forbes demands that he heal him immediately, so Zenos notes that it will cost him extra, but Forbes doesn't care and throws him a bag of coins. He tells Forbes it isn't enough, which annoys him, and he notes that he's already paying above the market rate, but Zenos reveals that he's an underground healer without a license. He asks to take the girl as his payment, and Forbes tells him he can have her, so he uses his healing magic to save him. Meanwhile at the house, the resident ghost Camilla appears, and she's excited for the food, but Lily tells her it's not ready yet. They're joined by a woman named Sophia, who asks for Zenos, but Lily tells her that he's out, so she decides to wait for him. Another girl named Linda arrives, and Sophia tells her to go back, since she's already Zenos' patient for today, but Linda decides to stay anyway. An orc girl named Lo comes bursting through the door, and Lily tells her she can join the others, but only after she fixes the door. She asks everyone if they'll stay for dinner, and Lo notes that it's the only reason why she's there, while the other girls also decide to stay. Lily goes to put away the laundry, but as she leaves, Lo and Linda taste what she's making, and they're amazed by how good it is. They can't stop themselves from eating, so Sophia warns them that Lily will get angry at them, but after smelling the food, she also can't resist. They end up eating everything, and they start to blame each other, but when Lily returns, she asks them to explain what happened. So Sophia mentions how they couldn't stop themselves from eating her food. They end up arguing with each other about who Zenos likes the most, but Lily tells them not to fight, because it will make him angry. She wishes they could all enjoy a meal together, so they apologize and offer to help her remake dinner, but she reveals that she's out of ingredients. Camilla overhears them, so she becomes angry that they ate all the food. Lily tells them to get her more ingredients, so they quickly head out, and Lily wonders if she'll be able to finish dinner before Zenos returns. When the slave girl wakes up, she wonders who Zenos is, so he explains that he just bought her. He tells her to strip, because he needs to make sure she's in perfect condition, but as she takes off her clothes, he sees what's causing her stomachache. So he immediately heals her, and she's amazed by his powers, but he thinks he's nothing special. She thanks him for curing her, and introduces herself as Teal, but he notes that she needs to work to pay him back, and she agrees to do anything for him, so he tells her to find herbs for him. After that, he notes that she did her job, so she doesn't owe him anymore, which surprises her, telling him all she did was find a few leaves. But he mentions that they have the same value as what he did for her, and he tears up the slave contract, but she has no idea what she'll do next. She promises to tell him once she finds out what she wants to do with her life, and he notes that if she gets hurt, she can ask him for help, but mentions that his healing isn't free. Zenos returns home, but Lily mentions that dinner isn't ready, and the other girls arrive with the ingredients. Camilla senses that he met another girl, but he tells her to stop teasing him, and Lily is happy to see they have what she needs, but she decides to make tea for everyone first. We see that Zenos used to be part of an adventuring party, but the leader Aston gives him a gold coin, telling him he'll never earn one in his life. He tells Zenos he hasn't been contributing anything to the party, so they don't need him anymore, but he reminds Aston that he was the one who invited him. They all start laughing, and Aston notes that he can never reject someone useful, but he wouldn't feel a thing if Zenos died. He mentions that their party has become famous, so they'll need to perform in front of nobles, telling Zenos they can't have him on the team. But he reminds them that it was only possible because of his magic, and Aston notes that the gold coin is his parting gift, warning him to never tell anyone he was in their party. Meanwhile, we see a man trying to kidnap Lily, so she kicks him and tries to get away, but he shoots her leg with an arrow, and she falls to the ground. He tries to grab her, but she bites him, and he ends up stabbing her. Zenos arrives, asking them what's going on, but they tell him it's none of his business, because Lily belongs to them. He buys her with the gold coin, and she wonders if she's about to die, but she's shocked as he instantly heals her. She thinks he must be a famous healer, but he mentions that he doesn't even have a license. She feels bad since he spent his money to save her, but he tells her she shouldn't worry about it, and asks about her home. But she mentions that she doesn't have one, so he decides to get her new clothes and feed her. At the restaurant, Lily wonders why he isn't eating anything, so he notes that he isn't hungry, but he really just doesn't have any money. A man named Zond arrives, and seeing that he's badly hurt, Zenos heals his wound, which surprises him. He gives Zenos some money as a reward, which gives him the idea to open a clinic, and Lily wants to help him, but he knows that running a clinic without a license is illegal, so he doesn't want to involve her. She reminds him that he bought her, so she'll always follow him, and seeing how determined she is, he decides to let her stay with him until he finds a safe place for her. After that, they head to an abandoned house, and Lily wonders why he chose such an area, so he mentions that he can't open a clinic in town without a license. Lily is scared to go inside, because she's heard about wraiths, and they can kill humans just by touching them. After checking out the house, Zenos thinks it's the perfect place to start the clinic, but Camilla suddenly appears in front of them, which scares Lily. She rushes towards them, but Zenos repels her with his spell, and reveals that he's killed hundreds of wraiths before. He apologizes to Camilla for disturbing her, and assures her that if she gives him the space to open the clinic, he won't cause any problems for her. So she becomes angry, and tries to attack him again, but she can't even reach him. She can't believe how powerful he is, and she summons minions to attack him, but he instantly defeats them. She wonders who he is, so he reveals that he's just an unlicensed healer, asking her to give him a room for his clinic and a bedroom, so she tells him to take the first floor. They clean up the place, and Lily asks Zenos if he needs her to help with publicity, but he knows that if they advertise their clinic, the Royal Medical Institute will notice it. She thinks that if they do nothing, they won't get any customers, but Zond suddenly visits them. We learn that Zenos was expecting him, because he knows that normal people don't get injuries from magic guns, which means he can't go to normal clinics. He asks him to look at his sister Sophia, who shows him her wound, and he realizes that she was hit with a magic gun with toxic effects. She wonders if he can heal her, but he notes that the best option is to cut off her arm before the toxins spread to her body. He demands 1 million coins for the procedure, so Sophia tells him about her reputation and asks him if he won't change the price. He realizes that she's one of the big shots leading the lizard people in the slums, and she robs crooked merchants so that she can return the money to her people. She tells him to convince her why she should pay him so much, so he mentions that he'll also regenerate her arm, telling her it's a difficult task. He notes that after being taken advantage of in the past, he refuses to work for free, so he doesn't care who she is, and he'll charge her according to the work he's putting in. But she doesn't understand how he can regenerate her arm, since normal healers can't do that, which surprises him. As Zenos begins the procedure, he cuts off her arm using a scalpel, and he uses his regeneration spell to regrow her arm. She's amazed by his skills, while Zond is shocked to see Camilla's head poking through the roof, but Zenos assures him that she doesn't have any bad intentions. After that, Lily makes tea, and Zenos wonders why she made 3 cups, so she notes that it's for Camilla. Lily is glad their business is booming, since plenty of lizard people have been coming to their clinic, but she wonders why they're always hurt. So Zenos explains that there are 3 main gangs in the slums, who are always fighting with each other. Linda suddenly arrives, and introduces herself as the leader of the Wolf Beast Skin Gang. He tells her the clinic is closed, but he'll still check if someone is seriously injured, and she notes that he's the one who's about to be hurt. She was confused that no matter how badly she beat up Sophia's gang, they always recovered quickly, but she found out it's because of Zenos. She tries to attack him with an axe, but it breaks as it hits his barrier, and she orders her men to attack him. But their attacks don't work against him, so she decides to destroy the clinic, but they're shocked as Camilla appears in front of them. She prepares to take them all out, but he calms her down, telling her the treatment room is for saving lives, so he can't allow her to kill anyone there. Linda is shocked that Camilla listened to him, and she thinks he's her master, so she and her men apologize to him. He tries to tell them it isn't true, but they don't respond to anything he says, and he realizes that they can't understand human language. The next day, an orc comes to the clinic, and we learn that he's working for Lo. But Zenos expected it, because he dealt with the lizard men and werewolves, so he knew the orcs would be coming as well. He asks the orc if Lo is a reasonable person, so he tells Zenos she's wise, and he hopes the orc is right about her. He thinks about how Sophia has been dropping off expensive gifts every day, while Linda is building a palace right next to him, because she wants to make up for her actions. He hopes he won't need to worry about Lo doing things like that, and he asks the orc why he didn't bring her with him, so he reveals that she can't move. Zenos goes to see Lo, and he asks her how she knows about him, so she reveals that he's famous in the slums. She asks him to tell her why she can't move from her seat, so he scans her body, and finds a mana stone in her stomach. She reveals that it will explode if she moves, and he wonders if someone slipped it into her food, but she explains that she mistook it for a rice ball and ate it. Zenos decides to leave, telling her she'll expel the mana stone on her own, but she reveals that there isn't much time left before it explodes. She explains that she isn't worried about herself, but her problem is that her men won't leave her side, and they're prepared to die for her. She wants to give all of their wealth to Zenos, because she heard that he treats children for free, which means he's a good person. She gives him the key to their treasure, but he uses a scalpel to open up her stomach and takes out the mana stone. She tells him to be careful, because it's about to explode, but she's shocked as he contains the explosion in his hand. She's surprised because if he didn't save her, he could have gotten all of their wealth, but he doesn't want more than what he works for, and she finds him interesting. She tells him to contact her if he needs anything, and she offers to provide security for his clinic, but he wishes for them to stay away. After that, Zenos sees Lily sulking, and she mentions that it's because the other girls keep visiting him recently. He doesn't understand why they're coming to his clinic even when they aren't injured, so he thinks they must be bored. But Camilla notes that they're into him, and they would probably start a war over him. Lily worries because she isn't as pretty as them, but Camilla tells her that all maidens in love are beautiful. He thinks they wouldn't fight each other for him, but he's shocked as they each come to the clinic and ask for his support, because they've decided to declare war on the other races. As they're about to start fighting, Zenos and Lily arrive at the battlefield, but he just tells them to fight until they're satisfied. They're glad they got his approval, so Sophia proposes that whoever wins the fight will get him, and everyone agrees to it. As the war begins, Sophia takes out her knives, and immediately goes after Linda, but she dodges Sophia's attacks. Lo rushes towards Sophia, but she gets out of the way, and Lo ends up smashing into the others. Everyone else starts attacking as well, but after fighting for the whole day, they realize that nobody's staying down, so Zenos reveals that he's been healing them. He tells them they can fight as long as they like, but he'll keep healing them since they're his patients, and he expects to be paid for it. They realize there's no point in fighting since no one will win, so they decide to end the war, and Lily asks Zenos why he stopped them. He mentions that his mentor told him a healer is third-rate if they only heal injuries, second-rate if they can completely heal a person, and first-rate if they can make the world a better place. He wants to improve the conditions in the slums, but he also knows he needs to keep the 3 factions around, since there is only patience. But Lily knows he's lying, because if everyone's on good terms with each other, there will be fewer patients for him to treat. She tells him she likes him, and he notes that he likes her as well, but she knows that he doesn't understand her true feelings for him. She asks him if he's really planning on charging them, and he mentions that he needs to be paid, since it wasn't easy healing them for so long. Meanwhile, a girl named Krishna meets with her division commander, who tells her about the rumors that the war between the three demi-human gangs is over. She finds it hard to believe since they've been fighting for so long, but he thinks they can't ignore it because it might be true. He explains how the kingdom prospers because of the hierarchy, where the rich take their anger out on the poor, who take out their frustration by fighting each other. But if they present a united front, they'll be a threat to the citizens. She still can't believe the gangs aren't fighting anymore, so he mentions that there are rumors that it's because of someone who acted as a mediator. But she thinks it's even more unbelievable that such a person exists, because it's hard to get the leaders of the slums to get along. He notes that they still need to check it out, so he wants her to investigate it and find the one responsible for the peace in the slums. At the clinic, Zeno sneezes, so Lo and Linga offer their bodies to warm him up, so Lily gets worried, and she runs away to make tea. He tells them to stay quiet as he heals Sophia, who mentions that she got injured while she was working, revealing that she usually targets special people to steal from. But the Royal Order of Knights is keeping a tight eye on her, so she was injured while fighting them. He wonders if the injuries she and Zahn got were also from the Royal Knights, so they tell him about Krishna, who hit Zahn with the magic gun. Camilla notes that it would be troublesome if they got her attention, since there are dangerous individuals in the clinic, but Zenos thinks the Royal Knights won't pay attention to him. Lily asks him what he would like to eat for lunch, but the others give her their requests, and he doesn't get to say anything. As they're eating, Camilla decides to rest, but she tells Zenos to remember that he's the only person in the capital who's capable of keeping the slum leaders in line. Meanwhile, Krishna arrives at the slums, and she's shocked to see that all the different races are living together. She asks one of the lizard men why they aren't fighting with each other, but he refuses to tell her anything, and he's about to leave, but she suddenly pulls out her gun. He sees Sophia walking past them, so he yells at her to help him, and Krishna immediately retreats, but she's surprised to see that Sophia's arm has completely healed. She gets lost while running away, and ends up going to the clinic, where she asks Zenos for directions. But she sees Lily, and suddenly shoots Zenos with smoke. Krishna reveals that she's working on a bigger case at the moment, but she has also been investigating the kidnapping of children, and she thinks Zenos is the culprit. But Lily tells her that he saved her, which makes her realize she jumped to conclusions, so she apologizes for her actions. She thinks that since he got hit by her bullet, he won't be waking up for a while, but she's shocked to see that he's completely fine. He tells her he used defensive magic, but she mentions that it shouldn't be enough to stop her gun, so she wonders if he's a grand sorcerer who has worked all his life on defensive magic. He tells her it isn't the case, but she thinks it's the only explanation, and notes that no one can deceive the eyes of the vice commander of the Royal Knights, which makes them realize who she is. Zenos puts up a signal to make sure no one comes to the clinic, while Krishna tells him how she came to the slums to capture an individual, but he wonders if she should be telling him such information. So she explains that she can't expect him to cooperate with her if she doesn't give him details, and he notes that he didn't agree to help her, but she tells him that every citizen must help the Royal Knights. She reveals that the person she's looking for is the mediator who ended the war between the three factions, which surprises him, and she reveals that no one in the slums told her anything. She thinks the mediator is a master at controlling people, thinking he must be evil, but Zenos notes that he might be trying to lay low. So she asks him if he knows who the person is, but he tells her it's just his instinct. She mentions that he might become a threat to the kingdom, but Lily tells her that the mediator just hates seeing people get hurt, so Krishna thinks she must know who he is. Zenos notes that Krishna should leave, since she's on an important mission, but she sees that he has an extra bed, so she decides to stay there. Lily makes tea for her, which ends up burning her mouth, while Lily sits in Zenos' lap and tells him to pat her head. Camilla turns invisible and starts to whisper in his ear, telling him Lily is jealous, so she's trying to show Krishna how close she is to him. She keeps trying to make Krishna jealous, but seeing that she doesn't care, Lily decides to use the secret move Camilla taught her. She grabs Zenos' face and notes that she won't let him sleep tonight, but she immediately falls asleep after saying it. After that, Krishna asks Zenos if a master healer can regenerate an arm, thinking it isn't possible for anyone except for a saint or a top-level healer. He wonders why she's asking such questions, so she tells him how she damaged Sophia's arm, but it's been completely healed. He asks her why she's against the people in the slums, so she reveals that her mother was killed there, and she mentions how her mother went there to feed people every day. But when someone killed her to steal her wedding ring, no one came to help her, which made Krishna decide to become a hero who delivered justice to criminals. She reveals that she's the youngest vice commander in the history of the Royal Knights, and she was given the nickname Iron Rose, which people think is because of her passion for her duty. But she thinks it's because of her face, since she hasn't been able to smile after her mother passed away. After Krishna leaves, Camilla tells Zenos he shouldn't pay attention to her, because her story isn't that unusual, telling him she has seen worse since she's been living for 300 years. Zenos takes down the flag he put up to make sure no one came to the clinic, and Sophia arrives to get her injuries healed, but Krishna suddenly returns. They both take out their weapons, and Lily notes that Sophia got lost and ended up there, but Krishna asks Sophia what happened to her arm. She thinks it was the mediator who healed her, and she mentions how he's gathering up the criminals in the slums to threaten their innocent residents. But Sophia tells her that bad elements are present in every part of society, and she reveals that the human trafficking ring is being run by an aristocrat named Calendar. But Krishna finds it hard to believe because he's passionate about educating orphan children. Sophia thinks the reason it's easy to deceive Krishna is because she only looks at things on the surface. But Sophia notes that the mediator doesn't care about how they look, and he would even heal Krishna if she were injured. Zenos tells her he's the mediator, but she refuses to believe him, thinking he isn't a master healer since he specializes in defense. He tries to convince her he's telling the truth, but she doesn't believe him and notes that he has sided with the demi-humans, so she leaves to find a new base. After that, Krishna meets with Calendar and tells him that there's a group of thieves working in the area, so she needs to inspect the security of his manor to make sure he's safe. He shows her around, and she thinks she's just wasting her time because there's nothing strange happening there. She asks Calendar if she can use his bathroom, and she continues to look around, thinking he has too much security for a person of his level. She looks around and sees a well, and she goes to check it out, realizing there's a group of children being held there. She tells them she's a hero, and promises to save them, but Calendar suddenly shoots her from behind. He tells her she shouldn't be poking her nose in his business, and he prepares to end her life, but Zenos and Sophia arrive. He knows who Sophia is, and he thinks no one will care if he shoots her, but he suddenly shoots Zenos instead. He starts to laugh, since he thinks Zenos is dead, but as the dust settles, he's shocked to see that Zenos is completely fine. Calendar keeps shooting at him, but his shield protects him, and as Calendar tries to take out his other gun, he accidentally drops it and falls over. Zenos picks it up and points it at him, so he begs him to let him go, but Zenos refuses to spare him. So he starts apologizing to Krishna, but Zenos notes that he should be saying sorry to the children instead. He shoots Calendar, and Krishna wonders if he's dead, but Zenos mentions that the limiter was on, so he's probably still alive. She tells Zenos it's too late to save her, so he should report everything to the Royal Knights, but she's shocked as he heals her and regenerates her arm. She realizes that he really is the mediator, and she thinks a hero is someone perfect like him, but he notes that no one is perfect. He tells her she's still a hero to the children, and she realizes that even though she thought her mother was a victim, she was truly happy when she went to the slums to feed children. She starts to cry, and notes that even though her mother was flawed, she's still her hero. After they save the kids, Zenos and Sophia decide to leave, because the Royal Knights will be there soon, but Krishna stops and asks him why he saved her. He notes that it's because she still needs to pay for using his bed, and he also added the charge of healing her to the bill, and she finds him amusing. We go back to when Aston found Zenos in the street, and he invites him to join him, but Zenos thinks that people from the slums can't become adventurers. Aston tells him his status doesn't matter if he has the skills, and he asks Zenos if he can do anything, so he mentions that he knows healing magic. Aston doesn't believe him, but he still takes him in, because he was really just looking for a slave. After that, we see Aston fight a wolf, and Zenos secretly heals his injuries, allowing him to use his sword to cut down the wolf, but he thinks Zenos is useless. So after firing him, he goes with the rest of the party to complete a job for a noble named Fennel, and they plan to finish it quickly so that they can go back to drinking. They come across a group of magical creatures, so Aston tells another member named Guile to use defensive magic. He rushes towards the creatures, but one of them burns his arm, and he realizes that one of them is about to be eaten. So he tells the mage named Anders to use attack magic, but he's too scared to do anything, so Aston thinks about firing him as well. He tells Guile to hurry up with the defensive magic, so he reveals that he's already using it, but it doesn't seem to be working. They're forced to retreat, and Aston yells at everyone for struggling against rank B monsters, but Anders mentions that Aston didn't do anything either. Guile wonders if it was really Xenos who was healing them, and Aston notes that it isn't possible, but they still need a healer, so they hire a girl named Human before they return to the cave. She wonders why they need her help, even though they're famous for coming out of battles without a scratch, so he tells her a lot has happened. They ask her about their other member who was almost eaten, so she reveals that he'll survive, but he won't be able to continue being an adventurer. Aston thinks it doesn't matter, because they don't need him in the party, telling everyone he wasn't strong enough. As they enter the cave, the beasts instantly shoot fireballs at them, and Anders ends up getting hit. Ewan mentions that he might die if a real healer doesn't take care of him, so they decide to retreat again, and Aston yells at Guile because he thinks Guile wasn't using his defensive magic. But Ewan reveals that Anders would have died instantly if the magic hadn't been in place, and Aston tells her to heal him quickly. But she notes that he needs to be taken to a hospital, because even the high-level healers won't be able to help him in such an environment. Aston wonders if Xenos was really healing them, because they've been getting hurt ever since he left, but he tells himself it isn't possible. After that, Fennel's butler delivers a letter to Aston, telling him to never show his face again to his master. The butler mentions that if they had told them the job was too much, Fennel could have made other arrangements for his daughter's birthday. But Aston couldn't complete the quest, so Fennel couldn't give anything to her. Aston tries to pin the blame on Xenos, but he realizes that he never officially told anyone that Xenos was a member of their party. He asks the butler to give him a chance, and he notes that they plan to hire new members, so they won't let him down. But Guile thinks it's a bad idea, because they don't have a plan, but Aston mentions that he'll bring Xenos back. As they head to the slums, Guile wonders how they'll find Xenos, and Aston plans to hire the 3 demi-human leaders to help them. He goes to Sophia first, but she starts laughing after realizing he's the one who kicked Xenos out of his party, and she tells him to go home, because Xenos has more important things to do. So Aston becomes angry, but he decides to retreat, because he knows that he's no match for her. After that, he goes to Linda and Lo, who give him the same response, and Lo warns him that the orcs will punish him if he bothers Xenos. Aston thinks they must be talking about another person with the same name, but he sees Xenos with Lily, so he stops them, and Xenos is surprised to see him there. But he notes that he's busy and decides to leave, so Aston tells him he came to find him, telling him to return to his party, but Xenos refuses his offer. He tells Aston that if he's that desperate, he'll join them on a quest when he has free time, but he expects to be paid for his services. Aston tells him not to act high and mighty, because he still doesn't have a place in the slums, but he's surprised as people on the street come up to Xenos and start thanking him. Aston reminds him how he took him in and gave him a place in the world, but Xenos doesn't care and decides to leave, which makes him angry. He tries to attack Xenos from behind, but Krishna shoots him, and Xenos wonders what she's doing there. So she explains that she came to meet him, but he notes that he doesn't live there, so she mentions she was lost. She decides to arrest Aston, but he swears it was Guile who made him do it and runs away. At the clinic, Xenos meets with the others, who tell him how Aston talked to all of them, so they sent their men to spy on him, but they lost him after he ran away. Lily thinks he might have gone home, but Sophia mentions that he could have gone to the Underground Guild, because they accept any job if the price is right. Camilla thinks his financial situation must be bad, since he was looking for Xenos, which means he can't hire anyone from the Underground Guild. But Sophia reveals that there's a person called the Guide, who accepts jobs on specific conditions, even if he doesn't get paid. At night, Lily sees that Xenos is still awake, so she makes him tea and pats his head, because he always takes care of her. After she falls asleep, Camilla asks Xenos if he's worked up because of his interaction with Aston, and he mentions that she's a nice person since she's worried about him. She asks him how he learned healing magic while he was in the slums, so he reveals that it all started when he tried to revive a corpse, which shocks her since it's forbidden magic. She reveals that when she was alive, people used sorcery to create golems, which worked endlessly since they didn't feel pain. The ground suddenly starts shaking, and she goes to check it out, but she's shocked to see a golem destroying the slums. We see that the golem was created by the Guide, on the request of someone who wants to hurt Xenos, and he thinks it's also the perfect way to test his creation. Zenos and Camilla go to the slums, and the three leaders also arrive, revealing that the golem hurt their people. They wonder what it is, so Zenos explains that it's an artificial life form, but the magic to make it has been lost for a long time. He wonders if anyone knows where it came from, and Lo reveals that one of her orcs saw it coming from deeper in the slums, which makes him wonder if it's the work of the underground guild. But he knows that it isn't the time to think about that, and he tells everyone to gather all the injured in one place. Meanwhile, the guide watches the golem from afar, and he thinks that it can still be improved, but he believes it should be able to kill Zenos, wondering how he'll act as the people close to him die. Zenos keeps healing everyone, but he's annoyed because he isn't getting paid for it, and he's also worried about Lily. The guide finds him impressive, realizing he's an excellent healer, but he knows that nothing matters until they can stop the golem. Zenos manages to heal everyone, and he hopes that the golem will just leave, but Camilla mentions that it won't go away until it has fulfilled its order. She thinks something's wrong, because the high-purity magic stone that forms the core of the golems is only found on the southernmost continent, where the Demon Lord's castle was located. She adds that the stone should have been used up during the Man-Fiend War, and the systems for black magic were lost a long time ago. The other ingredients to make a golem are also difficult to acquire, so she doesn't understand who's behind it, but Zenos notes that he needs to stop it. The others decide to join him, and he asks Camilla how to defeat it, so she mentions that they need to destroy the magic stone that makes up its core. So he tells the others to fight the golem, while he supports them with his magic. They rush towards it and attack its legs, causing it to fall to the ground, but it immediately regenerates. It sends Linga flying through the houses, but she's completely fine thanks to Zenos' healing. He tells himself to remember that he needs to be close to them, because the farther away he is, the weaker his magic becomes. He also knows that he can't use different types of magic at the same time, so he needs to use them according to the situation. After seeing the golem fight, Zenos comes up with an idea, and he tells the others to attack its legs, but as they follow his orders, they see that it's about to fall on a kid. He rushes to save her, but the golem makes sure it doesn't crush her, and Camilla is shocked seeing this, because it isn't supposed to have free will. So Zenos scans it, realizing the magic stone is in its left chest, and he sees that Aston is inside it. Meanwhile, the guide mentions that the best way to create life is to combine a human being with a magic stone, so that they will form a new core. He thinks Aston was the best choice because he only had negative emotions, and he wonders how Zenos will finish the fight, because the only way to win is to kill Aston. Zenos tells everyone else to leave, but they assure him they can still fight, and he remembers how his teacher told him that healers shouldn't fight on the front lines. But he notes that he's the only one who can finish the fight, so everyone else decides to trust him. After they leave, Zenos thinks it's odd that someone as selfish as Aston just saved a kid, and he remembers Guile, who told him the reason why Aston is obsessed with power and money. We learn that it's because his sister died, since he didn't have money to buy medicine for her, and he always thought it was weird that Aston knew Zenos didn't have a place in the world. But he realizes that it's because Aston is just like him, and the golem attacks him, but he enlarges his scalpel to cut off its arm, and opens up its chest. He sees Aston, but tells him it's the last time they'll be seeing each other, and he attacks him with his scalpel. The guide is disappointed, since he didn't hesitate to kill Aston, but he's shocked as he sees Zenos cutting out the magic stone from Aston's body, while healing him at the same time. He can't believe Zenos is still capable of doing that, because he just healed hundreds of people, and supported his friends who fought the golem. Aston wonders why Zenos saved him, so he explains that he needs Aston to tell him who's behind everything, because he's going to make them pay him for all the work he's done. He adds that even though Aston is a bad person, he still pulled him out of the slums, and gave him the gold coin, which led to him saving Lily and opening the clinic. But he notes that the biggest reason why he's saving Aston is because he needs to do his job as a healer. Zenos destroys the magic stone, and Aston mentions that he feels sick, because he now realizes how amazing Zenos is. He understands that their party only became successful because he was supporting them, and he wonders if Zenos is taking revenge on him by making him live after he lost everything. But Zenos notes that he didn't think so far ahead, and Aston apologizes for everything he's done, but Zenos tells him to get up, because he can't hit him while he's down. Zenos notes that he finally has the chance to get his revenge, and after boosting his fist with magic, he completely blows him away. When Aston later wakes up, Krishna arrests him, telling him Zenos told her everything that happened. She notes that Xenos took his sword to pay for the damage he caused, so he realizes that he lost everything, but she adds that Xenos left him a gold coin. She mentions that Xenos doesn't want to work with him again, and he recalls the moment he kicked Xenos out of the party, so he regrets everything. The others see how tired Xenos is, and even though he tells them to rest, they decide to help him and make sure he gets home. As they arrive at the clinic, Camilla notes that she's disappointed that Xenos survived, because she was looking forward to having the place to herself again. But Lily reveals that she was so worried that she was floating all over the house, so she becomes embarrassed. Lily notes that she was also worried when Camilla told her the situation, but she knew Xenos would return, and she welcomes him home. Krishna reveals that they've investigated the golem attack, and they discovered that the guide is behind it, so Xenos notes that he'll remember him, since he still needs to pay for the damage he caused. Sophia mentions that she also looked into him, telling everyone he's always alone, and he just started working in the underground guild. Krishna notes that he erased his trail, but the leaders think he'll be back, thinking he's already planning his next move. But she tells them to stop speculating, and they start arguing with her. So Xenos tells them to calm down, and pushes them out of his clinic, telling them they aren't allowed to fight there. After that, Lily notices that Xenos is tired, and she's about to invite him to go to the hot spring, but Sophia suddenly bursts through the door and beats her to it. He agrees to go with her, and she notes that she's looking forward to it, but the other girls arrive one after the other, and they all invite him to go to the hot spring. He decides to go with all of them, but he wonders why they're so obsessed with hot springs, asking Lily what she wanted to talk about, but she tells him to forget about it. Camilla notes that she enjoys seeing the girls fighting over him, but she mentions that she hasn't been to a hot spring for a long time, so she decides to join them. We see Xenos in the men's bath, but Sophia suddenly joins him, telling him nobody will disturb them, because she put up a sign which mentions that the bath is being cleaned. She notes that she never expected everyone to get along, telling him he might someday change the world, but he wonders why she's getting closer. She reveals that she was talking to him to distract him, and she tries to grab him, but Linda suddenly joins them and lunges at Xenos. But Sophia stops her, and they start fighting over him. Lola emerges from the water, revealing that she was waiting for Xenos, and she joins the fight, but Krishna also appears, telling the girls they shouldn't be in the men's bath. But they know that she's also there for Xenos, so they start ganging up on her, but he becomes angry since he can't relax, and he tells them to go back to their own bath. We see Human in the women's bath, and she's surprised to see the girls, wondering how such a mixed group came together. Lois starts boasting about her assets, and we see that Lily is jealous, revealing that she lacks confidence because she has a flat chest. But she's happy to see that Human is just like her. Camilla notes that bigger isn't always better, telling her Xenos might prefer smaller chests, but she wonders why Camilla is transparent. Human realizes she's a ghost, and she prepares to exorcise her, so she quickly flies away. Human looks around, realizing that the other girls are relaxing, so she wonders if she was just imagining things. After that, Xenos has dinner with the girls, but he realizes that Krishna isn't sitting with them, and she explains that she doesn't want to be seen with demi-humans, since she's a royal knight. Lily goes to sleep, and Xenos talks to Camilla, telling her he wasn't able to enjoy his meal, because the girls got drunk. He wonders how Camilla was able to get there, because he knows that she shouldn't be out in the sun, so she reveals that she possessed Lily's staff, telling him she can do it since she's attached to it. He wonders if it belonged to her when she was still alive, but she tells him she can't remember, and he realizes that she doesn't like talking about her past. The next day, everyone hears an explosion, so Human heads to the kitchen, where she realizes that the chef's arm has been burned. She uses her powers to heal him, but notes that first aid is the best she can do, thinking he'll never be able to use his arm again. But Xenos suddenly appears, realizing the man is injured, and Human notes that he needs to go to the Royal Hospital, where the healers can use advanced spells to help him recover. But Xenos thinks he doesn't need it, and Lily asks him what happened, so he explains that it's just a kitchen fire. He notes that they need to leave, but he reveals that he enjoyed the food last night, so he decides to heal the man for free. He immediately recovers, and Human can't believe his arm has been completely healed, realizing Xenos is built different. Human reports to her superior named Becker, and tells him about Xenos, so he asks her if she remembers anything about him. She describes his appearance, and Becker decides to look for him, thinking he must live in the slums, because he doesn't have an official registration. After that, we see Becker in the clinic, as a demi-human notes that he saw him in terrible condition. Zenos checks his lungs, and he realizes that Becker has the red lung disease, which has killed countless people in the past. He tells everyone to stay back, because it's highly contagious, but he wonders why Becker has it, since it's already been wiped out thanks to a cure. Becker is impressed by his diagnosis, and he introduces himself as an elite healer from the Royal Hospital, but Zenos wonders if he really has the red lung disease. Human joins them, telling Becker he's reckless, because he made himself sick so that he can meet Zenos. He reveals that he took a drug he developed, which gives him symptoms similar to the red lung disease, but he assures everyone he won't die, because he has already taken the antidote. Human reveals that he invented the cure for several diseases, including the red lung, so he was granted the special rank of elite healer. He asks Zenos about his coat, so he reveals that it belonged to his master, and they ask for his name, but Zenos notes that he doesn't know. Becker invites him to work at the Royal Hospital, telling him they need his help to solve a problem, but the girls suddenly arrive, revealing that they went there because they saw a red flag outside. He realizes Camilla put it out, because she noticed that something was wrong, and the girls tell Becker to leave. But he decides to change his approach, telling Zenos to consider it a commission, and he agrees to work with the Royal Hospital. Sophia questions his decision, but he explains that he needs them on his side, and he recalls that they saved countless lives in the slums by distributing the cure for red lung without asking for payment. The leaders realize they're good people, and Zenos wonders if Becker knows his master, so he promises to tell Zenos everything if he comes to the Royal Hospital. He notes that he'll help Zenos live a peaceful life once their problem is solved, and he officially welcomes him to their group. Zenos reaches the Royal Hospital, and Becker invites him to his office, where he tells him about his mission. He notes that he needs Zenos' help to collect information about the people who have gone missing, revealing that he's now a special research student, so he can attend the programs in the hospital. Becker explains that he'll be operating as a healer who has returned from abroad, and tells him not to worry about people finding out his identity, because he has an elite healer vouching for him. Zenos heads to his dorm, and he's surprised to see Lily, so Human explains that she's allowed to stay there because she's part of his family. She mentions that she's his wife, but Human tells her she's his sister in the documents, and he's glad that she's there because he was worried about leaving her behind. After Human leaves, Lily asks him if he wants her, but he reminds her that she's supposed to act like his sister, wondering who taught her to speak like that. So Camilla admits that she taught her, and he reminds her that there are countless healers in the Royal Hospital who could get rid of her if they found her. But she mentions that she isn't afraid of them because they aren't as powerful as him. We see Zenos eating with Human, and he wonders how the students can get a normal healer's license. So she explains that they must first go to school for a few years before taking the healer exam, which they need to pass to get their license. She notes that there are plenty of job opportunities for them after they pass the exam, and they can even take a rank-up exam after they make a name for themselves. But Zenos asks her about the people who went missing, so she tells him about her senior named Afreed, who's the deputy head of the lab. She notes that he's incredibly talented, and he helped Becker create the cure for the red lung disease, so Zenos wants to find him, asking her if she has any leads. But Professor Goldrin suddenly appears, and she reveals that he's a Class 7 advanced healer who serves as the vice director of the Royal Hospital. She explains that the 3 levels of healing are divided into 7 classes, and Goldrin's current class is about as high as a healer can get without becoming an elite healer. Zenos wonders why there are so many people with him, so she notes that he has the most authority at the moment, since the current director is too old to attend to his duties. She adds that after he became the vice director, the Royal Hospital has been giving less attention to poor patients because he wants the healers to prioritize the wealthy. She thinks his goal is to advance his political agenda, telling Zenos about the rumors that he reached his current class because of the support he received from the nobles. Zenos wants to stay away from him, but she explains that he can't avoid Goldrin because he might be involved in Afreed's disappearance, revealing that he borrowed him from Becker's lab. We learn that Afreed agreed to it, since he thought it would be a good learning experience, but he went missing after a month. Zenos wonders how he can approach Goldrin, so she tells him to just stand out in class, since Goldrin will contact him when he recognizes his talent. But Zenos thinks he won't stand out, because there's nothing special about him, so she realizes that he doesn't know how talented he is. A boy named Crescent suddenly interrupts them, and he recognizes Zenos as a special research student, telling him to do his best not to embarrass his sponsors. He wonders what's wrong with Crescent, so Human reveals that he's in her class, but he became arrogant after Goldrin's group scouted him. In a flashback, we see Zenos trying to revive a person, but his master stops him, telling him his powers should only be used on the living. He trains with a girl named Veritra, and their master notes that their magic is improving, but he tells them not to get cocky, because healing wounds only makes them a third-rate healer. They recall that he taught them how second-rate healers can completely heal a person, while the first-rate ones can make the world a better place, and their master is glad that they remember his teachings. We return to the present, as Zenos attends a lecture about the undead, and we learn that he already knows about them, because he fought them while he was an adventurer. The professor asks the students if they have questions, and one of them asks him about wraiths, so he explains that they're the highest ranked among the undead. But the healers don't know much about them, because they're extremely rare, and most of the parties that fought them were wiped out. So he advises everyone to run if they see a wraith, telling them the ones that can speak are incredibly dangerous, but Zenos is surprised hearing this, since Camilla can talk. The professor asks if they have fought any undead before, so Crescent brags about defeating 30 ghosts, and everyone thinks he's amazing. He asks Zenos if he has also defeated ghosts before, and he knows that he could instantly exorcise 50 of them, but he just tells everyone he can defeat 30 at once. But they think he's ridiculous, and the professor asks him to explain, so he notes that he used his healing spell to wipe out the ghosts in the underground labyrinth. But the professor can't believe it, because the labyrinth is so dangerous that even gold-class parties avoid it. Crescent thinks he's lying, so he tells him to stop talking nonsense, and the next professor begins his lecture on magic circles. He asks the students to draw one on the blackboard, so Crescent draws his best magic circle, which impresses the professor. He wants to see what Zenos can do, and we learn that he doesn't know much about magic circles, but he recalls that his master showed him one a long time ago, so he draws it on the board. Crescent thinks he just made it up, but the professor realizes it's an advanced regeneration spell, and Zenos reveals that it can regrow lost body parts. The professor can't believe it, but he thinks no one can activate it, because it requires an insane amount of mana. But Zenos activates it on the spot, and he notes that it isn't that useful, since he doesn't need it to regrow lost body parts. After that, Goldrin's subordinate tells him about Zenos, telling him he can defeat 30 ghosts at once, and another man reports that the undead have gathered at the graveyard. Goldrin thinks it's the perfect chance to test Zenos, so he decides to send him there, wondering if he can live up to his claims. The students gather to deal with the undead, and they use their healing spells to exorcise the ghosts, but they end up getting surrounded. So Zenos uses his high heal to save them, and Human can't believe he defeated all of the ghosts at once, but Crescent takes credit for his actions, and tells everyone to report his success to the teachers. He prepares to leave with the others, but the zombie king suddenly appears, and they tell him to take care of it, so he freaks out, but Human and Zenos refuse to help him. He tells everyone to run while he buys time for them, and he uses his strongest spell on the monster, but it has no effect, and he struggles to dodge the monster's attacks. Human thinks the ghosts gathered at the graveyard because of the zombie king, revealing that they're drawn to high-level undead creatures, and Zenos realizes that Crescent is in trouble. She tells Zenos not to help him, because he deserves to suffer, but Zenos knows that she's worried about him, because she didn't leave him behind. The monster catches him, and it prepares to eat him as he starts begging for help, so Zenos uses his mega heal to obliterate it. Crescent wonders why they saved him, so Human reminds him that he was begging for help, but Zenos thinks about what she told him, and he realizes that the undead were being drawn by Camilla. Zenos returns home, and tells Camilla that the undead gathered at the graveyard because of her, so she wonders if he wants to kick her out. But he thinks it's safer to keep her by his side, because she affects her surroundings, and she calls him a weirdo, since he wants to live with a wraith. The next day, Goldrin's secretary praises Crescent for wiping out the undead, telling him the other students were impressed by his powers. The secretary thinks Zenos failed to live up to their expectations, but Crescent feels like he owes him, so he reveals that Zenos was the one who defeated the undead. Becker tells Zenos that Goldrin wants to interview him, and notes that he doesn't just talk to anyone, because he commands the majority of the support in the Royal Hospital. Zenos wonders why he has more authority than Becker, since he's an elite healer, so he notes that his title doesn't give him political power, since he just earned it by developing medicine. Xenos meets Goldrin, who notes that healers shape the country's history, so they have the power to influence the public. But the ruling class reaps most of the benefits, so he wants to join them in the future, telling him it will strengthen their faction, so they can get the treatment they deserve. He explains that not all life is equal, so the nobles should get special treatment in the hospital, and he asks Xenos to show him his magic circle. He draws it on a piece of paper, and Goldrin checks it to assess the level of his knowledge, realizing it looks amazing, so he accepts him into his lab. The next day, Xenos joins Goldrin's escorts, and they walk around the hospital, as Crescent notes that he recommended him to the lab. Xenos wonders why he'd do that, and he explains that he wants to use him to make his way up. He notes that they'll join Goldrin as he visits his patients, because he wants to create an impression while he heals the nobles, but Xenos runs to get a closer look. He sees a patient who has twisted his ankle, and Goldrin realizes it's a sprain, so he gathers magic from 3 of his students and uses it to heal the man's leg. Xenos returns to Crescent and asks him about the spell Goldrin used, so he reveals that it's called health transfer magic, and it uses people's life force to boost recovery. He explains that Goldrin needs multiple donors to heal his patients, so that he can minimize the burden on them, and Xenos realizes it's the reason why he has so many people with him. But Crescent notes that he's also doing it for the election, because the current director Shalbar is close to retiring, so Goldrin is trying to secure votes to become the next director. Crescent thinks he can make his way to the top by kissing up to him, but Xenos asks him about Afreed, so Crescent reveals that he disappeared after he was invited to dinner. He explains that Goldrin only invites his favorites for dinner, and he notes that he's jealous of them because they're guaranteed to have a bright future if Goldrin becomes the director. After that, Xenos reports to Becker, who notes that they need more evidence, telling Xenos he should become one of Goldrin's favorites to infiltrate his dinner parties. Becker offers to pay him extra if he succeeds, and he notes that he also wants to learn about his master, so Becker promises to tell him everything he knows. But there are coins that suddenly fall to the ground, and he asks Xenos which one he'll pick up first, wondering if he thinks that all lives are equal. But Humans suddenly interrupts them, and Becker recalls that he has a meeting, so he prepares to leave, telling Xenos he's counting on him. We see Linda sneaking into Xenos' clinic, but she encounters Sophia, who realizes that she's also there to clean the place up. Lo also bursts in, and notes that she's there for the same reason, so they start cleaning together. We return to Xenos, as Crescent introduces him to Goldrin's pet named Milk, revealing that he's been assigned to take care of her. He notes that Goldrin has a meeting with 7 nobles, thinking he can become one of them if he climbs the faction's ladder, so Xenos realizes that he's working hard to get promoted. He thought healers were supposed to focus on healing people, but Crescent explains that magic isn't all-powerful, so he thinks money and status are more important. They meet a drunkard named Bon, who realizes that Crescent is looking after Milk again, but he reveals that he doesn't like her. He tells Crescent he won't get anywhere in life if he keeps kissing up to Goldrin, and Xenos asks him about Bon, so Crescent reveals that he's Goldrin's first secretary. But he doesn't do anything for the faction, so Crescent thinks he doesn't deserve his position, but he suddenly throws a bottle at them, and it almost hits Milk. She runs away, and Crescent chases after her, but she gets hit by a carriage, so he uses his strongest healing spell on her. But it doesn't work, and he thinks it's all over for him, because he can't save Goldrin's favorite pet. Xenos uses his basic healing spell, and Crescent thinks it won't work, thinking they need advanced magic to heal her. But he realizes that she's in perfect condition, and Xenos notes that her bones have been healed, so she can continue to walk like nothing happened, but he suggests letting her rest. After that, Xenos meets Human, who invites him to join her for a walk, and she takes him to the woods, where she apologizes for getting him involved. She explains that she feels guilty, because she wasn't talented enough to be scouted by Goldrin, so he ended up being dragged into it. But he tells her it's okay, because Becker will pay him for his efforts, and he notes that he's grateful for the opportunity, because he was able to step into the hospital. He mentions that he wants to learn about his master, who taught him everything he knows, so he feels like he owes him. Human notes that she also owes Becker, since he served as her mentor, and his girlfriend left him because of his dedication to his research, so she's now looking after him. Xenos asks her about their relationship, so she reveals that Becker is her uncle, but she's nowhere near as talented as him, and she just focuses on researching how to store medicine. She thinks her research is boring, and Xenos agrees with her, but he tells her the most important things in life are usually the most boring ones. She's happy hearing this, telling him he's an interesting person, but they hear Camilla's voice as she notes that he has found a new lover. So Yuman wonders what's happening, but he just tells her to ignore it. That evening, they head back to the hospital, but Crescent suddenly approaches them, and he begs them to help him. Goldrin has a meeting with Lord Fennel, who asks him to examine a rash on his daughter's face, which has been growing over the past few days. Goldrin notes that she has the odd face disease, and Fennel asks him if he can cure her, but he knows that it won't be easy. After that, Goldrin thinks about the disease, knowing it isn't life-threatening, but Fennel's daughter needs to undergo surgery, and he's worried that it will leave a scar on her face. He notes that if he has enough donors for his health transfer magic, it would be easy to heal her without surgery, but she doesn't want people to see her face, so he can only bring 2 assistants with him. He decides to spend time with Milk to unwind, but he bumps into Bon, who reveals that she got run over by a carriage. So he becomes upset, asking Bon if he's behind it, but he notes that Crescent has already healed her. Goldrin visits Milk in her room, and he's glad that she's in perfect condition, realizing she doesn't even have a scar on her body. We return to Crescent, as he tells Xenos that he was asked to heal the daughter of Fennel, who has the odd face disease, but Xenos tells him not to panic, asking him why he doesn't just cut it out. So he explains that it's rooted deep into her skin, and the surgery would leave a huge scar on her, thinking he's doomed if he messes up her face. Yuman wonders why he was given such a difficult task, thinking it's because he stole the credit for something, but he explains that it isn't true, since he told the secretary that Xenos was the one who healed Milk. Lily gives them tea, and Crescent finds her cute, but she explains that she already belongs to Xenos. Goldrin heads to Fennel's mansion, asking him why he's been summoned, so Fennel explains that his daughter refuses to leave her room because she doesn't want to have a scar on her face. But he thinks Goldrin can treat her without leaving a scar, asking him to convince her to undergo surgery. They head to her room, and Fennel tells his daughter to let Goldrin handle her treatment. He mentions that he's from the Royal Hospital, and explains that her condition can't be fixed without surgery, but she doesn't trust him because she thinks her enemy sent him to ruin her face. Crescent is confident that he can use his charm to change her mind, thinking he can make her fall in love with him, and he introduces himself as Goldrin's assistant. But she looks down on him, telling him he has no right to talk to her, since he's just an assistant, so he becomes depressed. Xenos realizes it's his turn, but he tells her it's okay if she doesn't want to undergo treatment, because her condition won't kill her. He notes that the worst it can do is make her look like an old hag, and he prepares to leave, but she gets worried hearing this, so she decides to listen to them. Goldrin explains that Xenos was telling the truth because the abnormal growth would make her ugly after a month, and the only way to remove it is through surgery. But she explains that she doesn't want to go under the knife because there's no guarantee that her face won't be scarred, and she immediately walks away. Xenos talks to her, and he realizes that she has pet birds, but he sees that one of them is injured. She reveals that she found it in the garden, but she believes that it will never fly again, thinking it's just like her, because she's no longer going to be able to leave the house. He wonders if she wants to get better, but she tells him to stop talking to her, asking him who he thinks she is. He notes that she's his patient, and the bird starts flying, so she realizes that he's the real deal. He explains that he doesn't care who she is, because he treats his patients equally, telling her that healing them is his job. He notes that the bird was able to fly again, and he once again asks if she wants to get better, telling her there's still hope for her. Charlotte decides to undergo surgery, and they use Becker's medicine to sedate her, while Fennel tells them to take care of her. Goldrin believes that Crescent was the one who healed Milk, so he tells him to be the surgeon, but Xenos realizes that his hands are shaking. He knows that the procedure is difficult, but Goldrin tells him to focus, and he waits for the roots of the odd face to take hold. Xenos scans Charlotte's body and tells Crescent where he can find the roots, promising to help him during the procedure. They begin the operation, but Crescent realizes that the roots are tangled with her nerves, and Goldrin notes that her appearance will be ruined if the nerves are cut. But he knows that they can't cure her condition unless they cut off the roots, so he tells Crescent to do it, saying his reputation will be ruined if they don't completely remove the growth. Crescent isn't sure if it's the right thing to do, but Goldrin forces him to do it, and starts blaming him for what happened, telling Fennel his assistant screwed up. He explains that they have no choice but to take her to the Royal Hospital, where they'll use health transfer magic to cure her. But Zenos tells them not to worry, revealing that he can just reconnect the nerves, and he completes the procedure in an instant, telling everyone it's a success. Charlotte later wakes up, realizing the growth is gone, and Fennel notes that Goldrin did a perfect job, so he decides to support him in the upcoming election. But Charlotte remembers hearing Zenos' voice during the procedure, and she asks her father about him. Zenos returns to the hospital, where he helps Human carry Becker's concoctions to the storage room, and he thanks them for their help, asking Zenos if the surgery was a success. Crescent suddenly joins them, telling Zenos they were invited to Goldrin's dinner party. Becker congratulates him, revealing that it's the first time Goldrin has invited someone who has just joined his lab, and he tells Zenos his job is almost done. That evening, everyone gathers for the party, where Goldrin reveals that Director Shalbar will retire next month, and the election for the vacant spot will be held soon. He notes that their faction is the largest in the hospital, and they even have the support of Fennel, so he's confident that he'll win the election. Lily wonders why Crescent didn't bring anyone with him, realizing he isn't popular with the girls, and she wonders if he invited Human to the party. She thinks he likes her, because he's always bothering her, but he explains that he's fine as long as he has Zenos. Goldrin tells everyone at the party to be proud, because he chose them to be in his inner circle, but Zenos starts asking around. He realizes that Afreed went missing while he was looking after Bon, who was drunk at the party, so he asks him about Afreed, but he reveals that he doesn't remember anything. He notes that he liked Afreed, because he was the only one who talked to him during the party, revealing that Goldrin told everyone to stay away from him. But he explains that he doesn't care, because Goldrin is the reason why he can live his carefree lifestyle. Lily wonders how he met Goldrin, but he refuses to answer the question, and tells her to leave him alone. Zenos thinks they can't get anything from him, but she thinks he knows something, so she decides to get him drunk. She listens to his story as she serves him his drinks, and he starts telling her about his life, but Zenos asks her what she's doing. So she reveals that she's using a technique Camilla taught her, and explains that men tend to run their mouths when they're drinking with a girl. Zenos asks him about Afreed, and he reveals that they went outside when he got drunk, so Zenos decides to recreate the situation. Bon drops his drink, and he starts to think Zenos is Goldrin, telling him he's finally about to become a noble, because of what happened 13 years ago. He asks Bon about it, so he reveals that it's the day of the explosion, which changed his life forever, and he notes that Fennel's backing helped him become a professor at the hospital. But Bon suddenly passes out, and Zenos realizes they can't get any more information from him. They return to the mansion, and Zenos notes that they should dig deeper, but Camilla suddenly joins them, and tells them she knows what's going on. We cut to the slum leaders, as they wait for Zenos to return, but a man suddenly tells them that Zahn got into an accident, and he needs medical treatment to survive. Sophia knows that Zenos is working undercover, and she doesn't want to ruin his mission, but the others are convinced that he's the only one who can save Zond. So she decides to look for him, telling everyone they'll pay him double the usual rate. We return to Camilla, as she explains that Goldrin used to be an ordinary researcher, but his life changed when he saved a noble. She believes the real story is that he didn't heal the noble, because it's being kept a secret, and Lily thinks another healer did it. But Goldrin took credit for it, and she notes that Bon must have seen everything, so Goldrin didn't want anyone else to talk to him. She thinks Bon told Afreed the truth, so he went into hiding, since he's afraid that Bon might remember what he told him. But Crescent suddenly interrupts her, and notes that he wants to introduce her to VIPs, so that she'll have a successful future. After she leaves, Zenos notes that there's another possibility, thinking Goldrin may have sacrificed the other victims using his health transfer magic, so that he could save the noble's life. Camilla wonders if it's a crime, so Zenos explains that it's simply triage, which isn't punishable by law, but if Afreed survived the incident, he might be plotting his revenge against Goldrin. She asks Zenos what he plans to do next, so he explains that he'll just tell Becker, because it isn't his job to be the judge of what's right. He returns to the party, but he sees Human outside, and she tells the guards she needs to talk to Zenos. She explains that there's an emergency, but they tell her she doesn't have an invitation, so she isn't allowed to enter the mansion. The slum leaders suddenly appear, but Goldrin mentions that demi-humans aren't allowed in his mansion, so he orders his guards to drive them away. But Linda takes them out, and Lo tells Zenos that Zahn needs his help. Sophia apologizes for messing with his plans, but she thinks he's the only one who can save Zond, and she begs Zenos to help him. Goldrin thinks he's insane, telling him he's sacrificing his future for demi-human peasants, but he explains that he needs to help them because he's a healer. He leaves with Lily, and Crescent can't believe he just did that, while Goldrin notes that he'll make sure Xenos can never work as a healer again. Crescent notes that he wants to have a successful future, but he recalls how Xenos saved everyone in the past, and he notes that he also wants to be a healer. He decides to follow him, so he withdraws from the faction and tells Xenos to wait for him so that he can help as well. Xenos heals Zond, and Crescent can't believe he's already done, thinking he's an idiot for quitting the faction. Human tells him he's right, but she reveals that she heard everything, and she's impressed that he actually has a good heart. The next day, Xenos reports to Becker, who thinks Afreed was involved in the incident 13 years ago. Xenos reveals that the party to celebrate Goldrin's election is tomorrow, and Becker decides to attend, because he thinks Afreed will try to get revenge. He tells Xenos his job is done, and promises to tell him about his master after the party, while Human notes that they'll have a farewell for him. We see Crescent drinking in his room, and we learn that he already knows about Xenos' background, but he doesn't want him to leave. Xenos reveals that Lily isn't his sister, and she notes that she's actually his wife, but he explains that it isn't true. Crescent thinks he's losing his mind, because he can see a wraith behind them, and Xenos wonders why Camilla decided to show herself, so she reveals that it's because Crescent is drinking her wine. Human asks Xenos about her, so he explains that she's harmless, but she threatens to curse Human if she doesn't give back her wine. After that, Xenos tells Camilla that he doesn't want to leave Human and Crescent because they're nothing like his party members who didn't treat him well. But he notes that he's used to saying goodbye, and she tells him he'll meet people like them in the future. The next day, Xenos prepares to leave, but Human notes that Becker has a letter for him, telling him it has information about his master. But when she checks Becker's desk, she sees a picture in his cabinet, and Xenos is confused when he sees it. We see Goldrin at a party with his supporters, as he notes that he's guaranteed to become the director, and Fennel tells him he deserves the position because he saved his life 13 years ago. In a flashback, we learn that Goldrin wasn't a successful researcher, and he was about to return to his hometown, but he saw an explosion in a magic factory. He sees Fennel on the ground, and realizes that he can instantly improve his life by saving him, because Fennel is one of the 7 great nobles. Goldrin casts his health transfer magic to heal him, but he uses the other victims as donors, and Bond captures the moment on camera. So to stop himself from being exposed, Goldrin gives him the position of secretary, and allows him to live a carefree life. We return to the present, as Becker congratulates him and gives him wine. He notes that Xenos was a promising student, but thinks he'll never be successful, because he left his faction just to heal peasants, telling Becker that not all lives are equal. Meanwhile, Xenos and Humans see the picture from 13 years ago, and they see that Afreed was there, so they realize that he survived the explosion. But Human is surprised to see a woman in one of the pictures, because she recognizes her as Becker's fiancée. We return to Goldrin, as he prepares to give a speech to his guests, and he invites them to have a toast with him, but after they drink the wine, he suddenly passes out. He later wakes up, and he sees Becker, who reveals that he poisoned everyone, so they will die if they aren't treated within an hour. He notes that Goldrin's wine was less potent, so he still has 2 hours to live, but he wonders why Becker is doing this. So he explains that he's just recreating the moment from 13 years ago, revealing that Xenos investigated the incident and gave him a lead. He notes that Bond kept his mouth shut, so he gave him his special concoction to make him talk, and found pictures from 13 years ago. He knows that Goldrin sacrificed the other victims to save Fennel, and notes that Afreed and his fiancée were among them, telling Goldrin to decide who he wants to save at the party. He wonders if Becker has an antidote, but he drinks his wine, and notes that he just poisoned himself, telling Goldrin to save him if he wants the antidote. Becker tells him to hurry, because he's running out of time, and he decides to heal himself before saving Fennel, because he isn't sure if Becker has the antidote. He prepares to sacrifice his other guests, but Becker reminds him that his poison was less potent, so he has the most life force in the room, telling him he can use it to save everyone. But he notes that he must save himself first, because his life is more valuable than his supporters. Xenos suddenly arrives with his friends, and Human notes that they found the pictures, so she had a feeling Becker was up to something. Xenos realizes that he poisoned everyone, and she wonders why he did that, so he explains that he wants to avenge his fiancée. He knows that her death wasn't an accident because a Freed told him that Goldrin had something to do with it, but he disappeared after their conversation. Becker wanted to learn the truth, so he hired Xenos to investigate, and Crescent understands why he wants revenge, but thinks he shouldn't poison innocent people to achieve his goal. Xenos decides to save everyone because he doesn't want Becker to be arrested for mass murder, telling him that Human will suffer if that happens. Becker explains that it's impossible to remove the toxins because Xenos doesn't know their specifics, but he thinks it doesn't matter and uses a basic healing spell on everyone. Becker thinks it's useless because it won't remove the poison from their bodies, but he realizes that he's starting to feel better. Xenos explains that the poison will eventually wear off, so he just needs to keep healing them until that happens, and Becker thinks he's crazy. But his friends decide to help him, and he tells Becker to be grateful because they're cleaning up his mess. He can't believe Xenos can maintain his healing spell for an hour, realizing he's on another level, and Becker recalls that his fiancée became a healer to save lives. But Goldrin killed her, so he doesn't want him to become the director, thinking he doesn't deserve the position. Becker thanks Xenos for saving the guests, thinking he and his friends have inherited his fiancée's spirit, but he tells Becker he's tired, so he demands extra pay. Goldrin wonders why he wasn't healed, telling everyone to save him, but they remember what happened, so they know that he was planning to sacrifice them to save himself. Xenos mentions that he can heal him, but he notes that he's exhausted, so he asks for a ridiculous amount, and Goldrin is desperate, so he promises to pay him. But Fennel tells Goldrin he wants to talk to him, so he realizes that his life is ruined. After that, Xenos talks to Becker, who reveals that he was interrogated, but he's impressed that Xenos got permission to see him. So he reveals that he knows someone in the Royal Guard, and Krishna joins them, revealing that she helped him meet Becker. Human thinks he didn't poison anyone, and he tells her she's right, revealing that his original plan was to use his drug to paralyze the guests. He wanted to trick Goldrin into thinking he poisoned them so that he would confess his crimes, but a different chemical was used on the wine, and Xenos thinks a Freed was behind it. Becker thinks he was at the party to watch the events unfold, but he notes that he's still guilty because he knew that the wine was poisoned, but he decided to pressure Goldrin anyway. Krishna tells Human not to worry because she can use her authority as vice captain to release him, and Human begs her to do it. Xenos prepares to leave, but Becker asks him about a Freed, and Xenos doesn't believe that he survived the incident 13 years ago. Becker thinks he isn't the same person who was sacrificed by Goldrin, so he wonders what a Freed is up to, telling Xenos he might be his next target. After he leaves, Becker notes that Xenos came to help Human because she'll suffer if he's proven guilty, and he knows that Xenos is the type of person who wants to save everyone. We see that it was the guide who poisoned the wine, and he notes that he wanted to see how Goldrin would react, but Xenos got in his way. We learn that he's a Freed, but another person appears to be controlling his body, and he's ready to make his next move. Xenos prepares to leave, and his friends are sad that he didn't get credit for saving everyone because they were unconscious when he healed them, but he notes that he got what he wanted. He leaves with Lily, and they return to his clinic, where he's reunited with the girls, who are happy to see him, and he prepares to see his next patient. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.